Cool.
Welcome to Deep Conversations Podcast, everybody. I am your host, Ryan Stewart, and today I am here with a special guest, Novia Rose. And today I want to, as we start, I want you to tell the people where you're from, and I want you to talk about your upbringing.
I am from Brooklyn, New York. My parents are from Jamaica. So I am of Caribbean descent. And like most people in Brooklyn, I'm I've always lived here, but my family is actually from Connecticut. When they came from Jamaica, they went straight there. So I've always been a part of a very strong, big family unit, very oriented in that way. I don't know what do you want to know about like my upbringing?
Well, I guess basically just just things that you learned on your way coming up to where it gave you a sense of where you knew you wanted to go in life.
Okay, so I've always been extremely into entertainment and arts ever since I was a little kid. I can remember just being highly into music. My father was a DJ. Still does for fun. I've always been very engulfed in that side of things, but I've also always been a very sensitive person. Mm-hmm. So I would often use music as an escape. When I was younger, like every little girl, I think I envisioned myself being a singer. But when it was time for me to go to high school, I tried out for LaGuardia in New York City. I don't know if you know, Lady Gaga went there. Yeah, I auditioned. Didn't get in, but that was definitely the big dream at that time. But once I got to college, I did 2 years of community college in Kingsborough because I wasn't really sure what lane I wanted to go in yet. And then once I got my associate's degree, I went up to Oswego, which is upstate New York. It's about 45 minutes away from Syracuse. And it's one of the top schools for broadcast communications. So I majored there. And that was when I figured out that I kind of wanted to explore TV journalism. And I got into all of in the classes, they were very helpful because it wasn't just teaching about the craft. They actually placed you in those experiences, right? So for radio, they actually put us in a class for radio production. So I had to learn Pro Tools. I had to learn those things and kind of curate things for myself, which I appreciate now because it molded me into the position that I eventually grew into in my professional life. Once I graduated, I became very self-reliant. So yeah, that's kind of how I ended up in this space.
I think that's interesting too. When how was the experience for you in college? Because I know, we all it's your first time, actually really being an adult, learning to, be on your own, and we all get kind of wrapped up in the schoolwork, and I being almost 40 now, I hear most people, after they graduate, they always say they missed that experience. They didn't really have that experience in college of learning to, I guess, to grow. You know what I mean? So how was that experience for you?
You know what? I guess you could call me self-sufficient. I'm on the borderline of spoiled, but not really spoiled because I think my parents, they've always done everything in their power to do what they had to do for us, right? So I never really, I knew I could always go to them, but I'd always had that sense of independent, wanting to be independent. So when I graduated high school and was exploring, liberal arts at Kingsborough, I got complacent, I got comfortable. I was very much that person, just comfortable where I am. I don't want much to change, right? When I graduated and it was time for me to go away, I was actually trying to go into Hofstra. I got into Oswego on accident. Wow. I didn't think I was going to get in at all. And when I got the approval letter, I was trying to dodge it. And my mom, actually, I had two factors. My mom played a big role in that. And also I had a friend who went away upstate in kind of the same area. Mm-hmm. And he was kind of like, you know, going away for college is the best thing you will ever do. I promise you, you will never regret it. You have to do it. I still wasn't really budging. So the day before I had to go away, my mom like literally packing up my stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going. But ultimately, I can honestly say those were the best years of my life, period. Those 2 years, actually 3 years, because after I graduated, funny story. So I got in for broadcast communications, but I did the bare minimum. And I did the bare minimum for my major because I was scared. And I let fear run me for a very long time. I actually had a roommate, and we're still friends to this day, still a friend unit. She did what she had to do, right? She got her grades. Damn near a straight A student. She got a job at Wendy Williams before, you know, right out of college, right? And I did the bare minimum. I partied, you know, was turning up.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize at the time it was like a subconscious fear, like not having the confidence in myself. Like, really, can I really do this? I even got an interview for an internship at Wendy Williams, and I bombed it.
Wow.
Because I didn't know myself at all at the time. I was not confident. And people, I would say that's the key to like getting hired into a good job, aside from having all the resources and who you know and things like that. When you step into these places, you really have to believe in yourself first, because it really reflects. I honestly feel like I had interviews at Diane von Furstenberg, I think that's how DBF, the high fashion brand for Mark. I bombed that as well. Wow. I bombed a lot of interviews in my day because I really wasn't self-aware.
And you know what? Listening to you, I kind of feel like I'm listening to myself. It's like I'm kind of looking at the female me, because it's something with that fear. You know what I mean? I grew up with, you know, most of my parents where the love was so strong that they wanted to make sure that everything, you know, all the ducks were lined up. You know what I mean? And it was, I mean, I don't want to say that it was a bad thing, because it wasn't, but like you said, when you went to college, it was the best years because you had to learn who you were. You know what I mean? Absolutely. And like you said, you always leaned on them. And I don't know, that fear is something, it can paralyze you too.
It paralyzed me. I'm not kidding you. But I didn't realize something was wrong until literally when I got home after my graduation, and I realized, like, holy shit, I don't have any options. What am I going to do? I literally had to go back up to my school. I bummed it in my friend let me bum it. And, you know, in these college towns, you could really easily get a house as a college student, right? So she got a house, and she let me basically stay there for free for 6 months. And I did an internship at an NPR station. And that's literally how I got it. But the point is, I could have done all of that while I was a student. You get me? I was literally just afraid of my own potential. Like, I don't think I could really do it. So I'm just going to go have fun and think about it later. And then later it became too late.
It's funny. I want to jump into that when you got out of college. But, you know, for me, when I was in high school, I literally can say in high school, I didn't talk to anybody. I maybe had, you know, you may speak to one or two or three people, you know, you see every once in a while, but it was like, I had like one close friend. And then it was like, I don't know. I was nervous to open up. Like you said, it was just, I didn't have confidence in me to do anything. And so it's like, when I started this, I'm like, I'll be thinking about it. I'm like, I know people back in school probably saying, he wants to talk to people. Right. You know, yeah, it's like, I know in my mind, I'm like, I know that. Like, I can't believe Ryan is doing this, because it's crazy. I read in your in your bio that you had landed a news editor position with Miss Yandy Smith.
Yes.
From Love and Hip Hop. Talk about that for me.
So actually coming off of the heels of that experience with going back up to the school and blah, 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 I was, at those times, right, I was going through a really low place. Like I was very emotional. And I want to stress what it does to your mental health. Like I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was 23, maybe 24 at the time. My cousin, who was actually studying at Clark Atlanta to become a publicist, wow. She was in relationship. She was already in the beginning. At the time, Yandy's company, EGL, was in the development stages, right? Or they were just getting started. And I was speaking to my cousin and I was crying to her. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do, because at that time, she had already packed away her first interview with Pharrell in college, right? So everyone around you is just making these moves. Yeah. Yep. And you're just sitting here like, what the fuck? So she was like, you know what? I'm going to hook you up with Yandy Smith. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she's on this show, blah, blah, blah. And she's starting this new thing. And I can honestly say to you, that was God. A lot of times in my life, you look back and you're like, yeah, that's God, because I don't know where that came from or how that happened, but
because you wouldn't have made the move to do it, right?
Absolutely not, because what experience did I have at that? The radio station, I think that kind of opened up my creativity a bit, but that was the only thing I had under my belt, right? I was just getting started, so what was I going to put on my resume? So fast forward, I applied. They hired me within less than a week, right? And that was the beginning of a total roller coaster. I got hired as an entertainment writer initially. I was doing so well with my pieces that my editor called me one day and she was like, yeah, so I'm sending you to the celebrity event to cover.
And see, and that fear, I don't mean to cut you off, but that fear jumped right back in, didn't it?
Listen to me. I was like, listen, are you sure? Do you have the right person? Like, what?
I know.
And she's like, no. Yeah, so I don't know if you know this show back in, like, obviously she was a VH1 star. So a lot of the beginning stages were very connected to VH1 reality stars. So my very first event was Renee Graziano from Mob Wives. I don't know if you know Renee, and Big Ange was there, like a whole bunch of VH1 stars, right?
Wow.
I get to the event. No, I called my editor right before and I'm like, listen, I really think you made the wrong choice here. Like, I don't think I could do this. I literally shitting bricks on the train, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I cursed.
No, you good.
Okay.
You good. Yeah.
So basically, event, and I sat in front of the event for maybe like close to an hour. I did not go inside. I got there super early, but I did not go inside because I started seeing all these celebrities pass by me. I'm starting to see them pull up and I am freaking the hell out. And obviously these are not like the biggest stars you'll ever see, but I don't know this world, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So Yandy actually was supposed to be at this event. And I hadn't met her or anything like that at the time. I was only in contact with my editor. I get on the red carpet and I'm nervous as fuck.
See, this is what I'm saying, and this is why I say I feel like you're like the female me, because every emotion is even now, I'm gonna be honest, even just this, having when I'm reading people's bio, and I'm reading this stuff, it's like, I don't know, a nervousness comes over, and it's like, I mean, once we start, it goes away. I don't know what that is, but leading up to that, I'm like,
I was nervous before I got on this call.
Yeah, see,
and I've done a million of these, and I don't know why that
it's every time.
Nerve, every time. But yeah, so I get on the carpet and I'm about to prepare myself mentally, and I'm freaking out. And this girl from another publication starts talking to me, and she was super nice. And I was like, she was like, well, who are you working for? And I'm like, oh, Yandy Smith, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, look, she's right there.
God.
And I was like, oh, Yeah, so I'm being who I am. I'm like, oh, cool. I'll see her later. I need to figure out what I'm doing here, whatever. Yandy comes down the line, and I think by this time I maybe have gotten like 2 interviews so far. She comes down the line, and the girl's like, "Hey, did you meet your new writer?" She's standing right here, and Yandy embraced me like so lovingly, like it was. And from there, by the end of the night, I ended up getting about 6 to 7 interviews from that event. And that was a wrap after that. They just started sending me everywhere. Literally. They just started sending me everywhere. And my life quickly became hectic, chaotic. I was basically living a double life because if you enter into the media industry in the beginning, you really have to pay your dues, right? And at that time, and I feel like such an old lady, but in my day, when we started in media, you still had to put the work in without getting paid. It was just the name of the game at that time. So, I was excelling in that area, and I wasn't getting paid, but I was getting the experience, and building those connections, and that was super valuable. I think, and I'm sure we'll probably get deeper into this in the conversation, but like just working in the media industry is it's very rewarding if you really love what you do, right? But
it can be really toxic.
It was. When you're so in the zone, like at that time, I was so hungry for the next opportunity and just so hungry. I never said no to any opportunity at that time, right? So I was just taking everything. And 2, I was so engulfed in maintaining my double life because I was still working a 9 to 5. So a lot of times I was working for the state for a while, and because I signed up with these temp agencies and they would just place me anywhere, and I would be working and literally leaving work at 5 p.m. to go run uptown or run wherever in the city and be on the street until like 11 p.m.
And 12 a.m. at night. You were probably only getting 4 hours of sleep.
What was sleep? What was that? What's that?
No,
sleep. But in the end, it ended up doing me you don't learn, all of these things are life experiences, right? Like now I'm in my 30s, I could look back on what I was doing wrong. Like it's not wrong to not say no to opportunities in the beginning of your career. It's not wrong, but it was so essential. Like I wish I would have taken care of myself, because I got into the habit of not giving myself a rest.
And what's funny? I got a close friend, and she always tells me, she's like, make sure you rest. Make sure you can. And for me, in the beginning, I was saying to myself, I can do it. I was like you. It's like, I can do it. I'm hungry. I want to keep going. I want to network with anybody in the world, because for me, I'm like, word of mouth is one of the most powerful things, because it can get out. And then my body was like, since you ain't gonna sit down, I'm gonna make it to one day. And I'm like, one day I was like, I can't even keep my eyes open. I am so sleepy. And it was
and I'm sure you feel like this when you look on social media now with these kids, well, again, with the old lady vibe, or auntie vibe, with these kids, putting so much emphasis on the grind, on the hustle and all of that. And I know for a fact that I would be in a much better place. Not that I'm not in a good place now, but things would be probably a little bit different if I took care of myself a little bit more. Because I tricked myself into believing that, because that's what they instill in you, right? Most of the higher ups in the industry, like, oh, I went through it, so you got to go through it too. It's the name of the game. But I tricked myself into believing that sleep could wait. Rest can wait. Like, I got to get to the grind. You know what I mean? But when you crash, you could go for as long as you want to. But when you're crashing, God help you, because who knows how long it's going to take you to get back up. So
you're literally dragged.
You're dead.
Yeah, it's like you said with the higher ups, they'll tell you, this is what you got to go through. You got to go through this. You got to go through this. And it's somewhat true, but then at the same time, it's like things have evolved. You know what I mean? Things have evolved and things have changed to where, like you said, you have to get your rest. You always see things on social media. You don't need 8 hours of sleep, and you know they say you're supposed to keep grinding and grinding. Listen. You better get all the people who saying that. I guarantee they make time for themselves to go to sleep.
If you are tired, trust me, that interview is going to be there tomorrow, and if it's not, it was just not for you. Like, I think people need to really embrace what is for you will never miss you, because that really is a real thing.
Yeah.
And if you feel like you're putting 50% of your energy into something and you're not being benefited at all, it's not worth it. You really have to put yourself first. And not to say, because I know I'm the type of person, I know what kind of work ethic I have, right? Mm-hmm. I know I'm willing to get up and go.
Yep.
I know I'm willing to put in the work. So if I'm saying I'm tired, and if you honestly in yourself are feeling like you are tired, take the rest.
Yeah. Yep. What are some valuable lessons Miss Yandy has taught you since you've worked and you've been around her? Not even, and it don't even have to be something that she said, just the way that she has moved.
There's so many. I think the most important thing I've learned from her is the tenacity, like to how important work ethic it really is, right? To get to where you have to go. Like, don't let anything or anyone stop what the vision that you have for yourself, and believe in your own potential, right? Because she has put me in places and in spaces that I would never have even dreamed of in my regular life. And so I would say those are the two most important things. Like, always work hard. Number one, always never let anybody stop what you got going on. And two, believe in your potential.
Mm-hmm. As a
believe in yourself.
Now I know you've had the opportunity to work with mostly women, and it's I read that you grew passionate about uplifting your peers. Yeah. So why do you think that is so important, especially in our community, to make it a necessity to support each other?
I've always been like a very lovey-dovey person inside, but coming into the industry specifically, the story I just told you about that girl that tapped me and started talking to me and introduced me to Yandy, that's kind of like the moment that kicked it off for me, because in the world of media journalists and doing the work that we do, we often really don't get the credit for the work that we do. There's a lot of women there's a lot of behind the scenes women who are making history, and it is when I started, I would say that the industry is male dominated, but I feel like a shift is happening. I don't really necessarily feel like that anymore. Mm-hmm. But at the time, it was energy of like, it's male dominated, like your word doesn't matter. And I think very few people outside of, because it's a very niche crowd I was talking to, like women entertainment journalists and women who work behind the scenes in the media industry, right? And a lot of people wouldn't understand what we go through. Oftentimes when we're hired for one position, we're not doing one job. We're wearing like 20 different hats. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know one woman who works in the media industry that wears just one hat. And I just grew passionate about giving credit where it's due. And that's kind of what started, but it really started in my experiences in going to these events and communicating. That was my favorite part of covering events. Yeah, and interviewing the celebrities were cool, because you're in your element, and obviously that's my passion. But connecting with my peers made those events fun. You know what I mean? And made my experience fun, because there's a lot of things that are going on that not everybody will understand. You know, and till this day, if I speak to some people who I've worked with in the past, they'll be like, "Girl, remember that time?" I'm like, "That was crazy."
Yeah. I know.
And I'm so thankful for those experiences. But in general, I just feel like there are a lot of women who have made strides and deserve to be uplifted. So
I started it last year doing well, it wasn't last year, it was early this year, and I was doing I was highlighting during Women's Month. You know, I was highlighting, you know, women during the month, and I just talking to them, it changed my perspective on a lot of things, because I feel like now, you know, I've been victim of it too sometimes, you know what I mean? But I feel like there's a lot of women bashing, you know, going on, you know, a lot of it going on. And I don't know if it's purposely because people can feel the shift, you know what I mean? And they're trying to put that cloud over to kind of bring it back down to get it to where it used to be. But I found, you know, just communicating with, you know, with a lot of women, I mean the intelligence and the you know, the strength and all of that in it. And I feel like it's, you know, men are kind of tearing it down, and it's diminishing a lot of this going on. It's diminishing a really, really good gift and position, you know what I mean, that people can be in, because like you said, women wear a lot of hats. I mean, it's just, that's in y'all's nature, you know what I mean, to carry a lot.
It is, and we do it well, but just because we do it well doesn't mean that we don't need the support, right? To your point, with a lot of women bashing and all of that going on, and that's not even just the industry, right? That's just the climate of what's going on in the world right now.
Yeah.
I think, and if I'm being honest with you, like, I think it goes back to just media and the effect that it has on our everyday life, right? I'm not going to bash social media, because I always say I've built a career out of it, but I always say it's a very powerful tool, and it could be as positive as you want, and it could be as negative as you want. It's how you choose to use it, right? Unfortunately, in the climate of everyone being afforded the opportunity to share exactly what they feel, how they want to say it, when they want to say it, there's the decorum is really not.
It can bring a heavy cloud over people. I mean, it can, if you, like you said, if you let it can pull you in.
Some people can argue that whole male toxic energy situation, or, you know, just female bashing, could be due to that, but I argue that it's always been going on. I just feel like it's been amplified by social media. But I also just feel like a lot of these toxic behaviors are being normalized, right? So it's normal to get online and bash a woman and have people backing you up for it, right? Like we continue to normalize these things, and in general, internally in real life, I think a lot of men who are in a position of power feel threatened if a strong woman is behind them on their level.
It's never made no sense to me, because nobody wants somebody to talk to their mother or their daughter like that, or talk about, you know what I mean? So it's like, where does that come from? You know what I mean? And we'll talk about it later, because I'm gonna ask you something later on when the interview's done. But I want to talk about your social platform. It's called Women in Entertainment.
It was. So I switched it. So yeah, I went through a very, a very trying time in my career, because although I was in that space all the time, I was very good at separating my worlds. Right. I would be out in the streets with the celebs, but then I would come home and be, I never was striving to be the person that gets the most attention. I really just truly loved what I did. Like, it made me happy to I didn't really enjoy like wondering if a celebrity was going to curse me out or not, or if I said the wrong thing or whatever. I didn't enjoy that part of it. Yeah. But I truly enjoyed the process, the creative process of everything I was involved in. But as everyone knows, most people go through this, like, when you are at a point where you know that you're supposed to be treated a certain way, like you're growing, and that's not really happening, you come to a standstill. So I had to really sit down and figure things out. And there was a lot of things personally going on with me. I had a lot of deaths in my family. It was just a lot going on. So I had, for lack of a better, I crashed. And I crashed for a very long time, a very long time. And in that time, aside from all the personal stuff that was going on with me, I really had to sit down and figure out, okay, like, what is it that I want, right? Within every aspect of my life. So that resulted in the switch from Women in Entertainment to noveerose.com, which is now what it goes on, because I'm going through a brand development, started going through a brand development stage at that time, and was really trying to figure out how I could make everything cohesive, because I was working in so many different areas of the industry. Like, it was hard to narrow down. Like, Women in Entertainment was just one part, right? But I was still doing everything else. So that was the reason for the transition from Women Entertainment to just making it noveerose.com.
It's crazy how similar our paths are, because when I was starting this, my grandmother was, even from when I was little, she would always say, for me, I don't remember when my voice changed. I just remember when I was younger, I used to have a high pitched voice. You know what I mean? But ever since it changed, she always would say, she would even sometimes kind of yell at me, and it would be like, why? I keep telling you, you need to do something with your voice. You need to get on the radio. You need to do something. You know what I mean? And like you said, that fear had me paralyzed. So when I started it, I was so excited. I would tell her, I would tell my other grandmom, I would go and tell my grandpa. And then, like you said, when things started shifting for me, it was like everything was turning upside down. You know what I mean? It was my grandfather had passed, and then the following year, my grandmother had passed, and then the following year, my other grandmother passed. So it was like, what is going on? You know what I mean? Like,
you're going through the damn, like, Hunger Games. Like, it's a lot.
Yeah, and I'm like, and you're trying to stay focused on this because you know that's what they would wanted you to do. But for you, it's like you said, I crashed, because it was like, what the hell?
Can we talk about, also in the media industry, you are taught to not show emotion. Your emotions don't count. Like, if something's wrong with you, you have to eat that shit up and keep it moving. That's just what it is. What is a personal life? You had a death in the family. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Are you going to be here at 5? That's literally how life is. And you get so caught up in functioning that way that you don't even realize what a disservice you're doing to yourself.
See, and like you said, when you was like, I really enjoyed, that's why I said, I feel like I'm on the same path with you, because when you was like, I really enjoy what I do, I really enjoy the creative process of it, we're naturally, what's the word for it? Just, we like a quiet vibe. So when we get back home, all the noise and all that is out there. So when you get back home now, you have taught yourself out there to block everything off.
Yep.
But when you get back in your space by yourself, it's like everything is like, now you know you got to handle this. Now you know you got to deal with this feeling right here. You know you got to deal with this feeling. It's like I
don't know about you, but well, it got to a point because things obviously when things are not working out in your personal life and you got a lot going on. But I became so okay. I will be transparent about something. I had a breakdown, right? And I ended up in the hospital. And the doctor, it was like in the middle of the night, and the doctor was like, we can't let you go unless we know that you're 100% safe. And I had an interview. This is when I first started Women in Entertainment, and I wanted to interview the digital media director at Hot 97. And she agreed to do this for me on my own name. I wasn't going off the back of Yandy, nothing like that. I just reached out to her. She was kind enough to let me do it because I had been seeing her at events and stuff. Literally had that appointment at like maybe 9 a.m. or something like that. I looked at the doctor and I was like, and I literally just had this breakdown. I'm like, am I going to be out of here by 5 a.m.? Because I got somewhere to go.
Yep. Yeah.
And best to believe my ass was at the Hot 97 building at 9 a.m. the next morning because I had to get that interview. Like it was time to shut my personal off. But that was I'm thankful that she did that for me, of course, but looking back on it, but that's the type of behavior that I would have, and it turns into a pattern, right? And so you think it's normal.
Yeah.
I cried 5 minutes ago, I got to shut down, and now I got to go do this. Like,
and it's funny being in this kind of industry and this kind of things that we going through. When you see celebrities, I have a different take on it.
Oh, of course. When you start meeting these people and like for me,
okay, for example, Kanye has done some crazy things. You know what I mean? You're like, all right, Kanye. But at the same time, like you said, he has taught himself how to shut it off. So now when he's in his own private life, he is losing his mind.
I think Kanye is a perfect example of, and I can identify with this as well. I think he is a perfect example of someone who is misunderstood. But it's misunderstood to a level of like with the age of social media and things like that, like nobody wants to hear what you have to say because you spaz out, right?
Yeah.
But I do think on the inside, just like people like Chris Brown, who've been terribly, I have a different perspective on people like that than the average person would, because I've seen this shit from the inside. I've witnessed some shit, okay? And it's not easy being those people. And I myself, all these young kids that are idolizing these positions and all of that stuff like that, when I was working heavily behind the scenes around these people, like, I used to feel bad.
Yeah.
For lack of a better phrase. Like, I used to try to come from a very humble place with them and not treat them as the celebrity, because they really are human beings.
And that's what and that's what they look for, is some sense of reality. Because what they're living and what people are seeing, I mean, you're seeing their talent and all this stuff, being displayed, but you don't see them as a regular, real human being that you can stand next to without losing your mind. You know what I mean? So when they come across to people like you and you sitting there conversating, they're like, oh man. And then you find that they start to really, truly become transparent.
I hope so. Like, I really, I remember one time I was supposed to have like a quick, and I've interviewed him a couple of times, but I ended up on the phone with Music Soul Child for like,
wow.
That interview had to be like 2 hours. And this was my second time interviewing him. The first time was dope. It was in person. The second time it had to be over the phone. And we were just talking about, I could just tell that it felt good for him to really talk about his experiences and his feelings about what he's been through in the industry, right? Because at the end of the day, I feel like that's what people need. People want those people in those positions just want to be heard. You know what I mean? And be understood, and not want, and the people who don't want to fold for the masses. There's a lot of those celebrities too. Like it's just, yeah. I hope that in the work that I've done, that has been felt on the other side. I would only hope, because I truly don't view these people as like symbols. I really feel like, they're people in this industry. I really honestly feel like if you do not have the love for it, the passion for the craft, what the fuck are you doing in it?
Yeah,
because it's not.
And you know,
it ain't a place to live.
It's. I think everybody gets hung up on the dollar bill,
but the dollar bill don't even come that easy.
No,
it don't even, like, it's not like back in the day, right, when we were growing up, you could walk into Hot 97 and ask for a job. You can't do that now.
No, you can't even. Nope, they won't even. Yeah,
pass the security.
Yep, it was so. I remember me and my cousin. My cousin was he was a aspiring rapper. We walked right down in the Kiss 101.7. I'm down here in Delaware. The studio's down there, so we walked right in there, and it was like, can't do that now. You better not.
Please.
You better not. Now I want to talk about your Rose dinner series.
Sure.
Yeah, I wanted to. You were honored. You honored. I read that you honored the first African American correspondent for Forbes.
Yes, Sidnee Michelle. That's my girl.
Yeah. How has that process for you? How is that? What has that done for you? You know, as far as confidence and just knowing that you're worth being where you're at. I think
if you are a striver, you really don't pay attention to like things in the moment, right? Because you constantly think about like what's next. Mm-hmm. So in that moment, that idea came to me, and that's the power of sisterhood. I knew employee at Hot 97 who had a podcast called Dear Black Girl Podcast, and she was gracious enough to collaborate with me and use her connections, and we ended up getting sponsorship by Cavassier and by Philippe Chow. Right, unfortunately, right after I did the first one, the next year the pandemic came around, right? So I had to pause, and I haven't gotten to resume the series as I would like to, but it's in the works, because that's something that I really want to keep going. I'm really passionate about giving people their flowers. And Sidnee in particular, she supported my blog heavily in the beginning. So I just wanted to show her love and show her that I see her and see the moves that she's making. And it was so cute. Funny story about that dinner. I didn't get to do it because how I envisioned it, like a lot more creative freedom, because I wanted to be very specific with how I wanted to honor them. But it was my first time, so I just kind of let it unfold the way. And I'm happy I did, because it turned into a beautiful night. Her friends came, her people. It was very intimate. Mac Wilds and his wife came to the dinner, right? And I knew his wife beforehand because I worked with her as a publicist. She was a publicist at the time, and she got me into. So they came into the dinner, and I saw them. But in my mind, I'm not one of those people that gossips. Like, I really don't. I work in this shit, so I really don't take things at face value, right? So I did not notice at the time. And then fast forward, like months later, they confirmed their relationship. I'm like, holy shit, those people were really at my dinner.
Yeah.
Booed up. And I really had that's a funny story I always like to tell. But that night was magical, and she had fun, and which is all I wanted. So my goal is to find fun and unique ways to honor people like that. Mm-hmm. Right? So yeah, that was kind of the vision for the dinner series, and hopefully I'll get to expand on that, in the years to come.
Yeah, that sounds That sounds dope. You gotta let me know because I want
to. Of course.
to. Yeah, I want to be able to. I want to be able to see some of that stuff. Now, I always ask a lot of my guests this question because I think it's like you said, we kind of get wrapped up a lot in how we move and just being focused on business, and we never get a chance to kind of sit down and just think about some stuff. So, what have you learned about yourself mentally and spiritually since you started out, from the beginning to now, mentally and spiritually about yourself?
That I am worth it. I had another peer of mine that I love dearly, Pilar Scratch. She's been super supportive of me throughout this whole journey. And she said to me one time, she was like, the way you look at yourself should be like, write everything on a piece of paper, or write all of your accomplishments on a piece of paper. And that is how people look at you. And when she said that to me, I was like, because at the time because of, I guess my name introduces me before I do. And I think people expect me to be one type of way because of the way my name sounds. And I'm really not that type of person. I never wanted to be a personality, if you will, or like in the forefront doing the most. Like but people have always kind of pushed me to be that, right? If that makes sense. But I'm really laid back. I'm not with that vibe. So I think I learned that very resilient. And I'm very caring and I'm very loving. And there's nothing wrong with acting from that place, right? Because if you are in certain situations that may have broken your spirit, whatever the case may be, you kind of feel like, okay, was I doing something wrong? But I think that experience has taught me that I do belong. I do belong, and I am worth it, and I have accomplished a lot, and I should be proud of that. I should stop and give myself the flower once in a while. I was not doing that. And I don't think I believed that during that time. So I hope I answered your question. I don't know if that makes sense.
And I like answering. I like asking that question because you get a lot of different responses, but what I've found is it all comes from a place of self-love. You know what I mean? Because we as minorities, and we come from a place spiritually where we're down on ourselves. We beat ourselves down because I had an interview early last year with a guy, and me and him are, we text every once in a while. I mean, like, he lives down in Atlanta, but we were talking about our history, Black history. And he was like, he said, you gotta realize where we come from. He said, our spirit comes from a place from us being children. What we see is, we automatically think that, he said, when we go to school, we're taught you were slaves. He said, forget about everything that happened before that. He said, school starts from Black people being slaves. He said, so now your mind is automatically transformed into just, you have an overwhelming, you're in shackles now. And that's what you see. So now you're always reaching for something that's some kind of confirmation that I am something and I am somebody. You know what I mean? And it's.
Can I say that makes so much sense, because in a little bit of my background growing up, all I heard about myself from others was that how pretty I was, right? Like that was a running thing. And I'm not that girl, right? I was a very unique child. I was like the nerd around the cool kids. That was me. That was my vibe in junior high school and middle school. Like I was never and I had a bad experience in high school as well that kind of like set the tone, I think, for how I saw myself. It was pretty traumatizing, but then internally, I wasn't really getting the love and affection or the reassurance in my household, so to say. Like, so I got comfortable with dimming my lights because I never wanted to be viewed as like the pretty girl.
Yeah.
I never wanted that. I felt like I was so much more than that, but then that also turned me into a people pleaser. So, I went through that phase, and I was when you're like that, you don't know how to set boundaries. And I was giving so much to everyone around me, even in my professional career. People call me in the middle of the night to come assist on a photo shoot. Like I was there, like just giving all that I could. And that was beneficial so people could see past this.
Yep.
But in the end, it just worked against me because I really wasn't nurturing myself or reassuring myself or anything of that nature. So yeah, you're so right. Like we're taught that externally and sometimes internally in your own home. Like you are taught to dim your light. Like don't get too much. You know what I mean? Like you're taught that. So it took me until like I'm 33 now. It took me until I turned 30 to even start to even recognize the trauma that I seemed to I couldn't heal from.
Yeah, and it's so crazy. I'm gonna have a panel a little later on, and I hope I haven't picked a date yet because I'm still trying to get some of the things worked out in it. But it's going to be on a Zoom, and I hope you can be on it. But what I want to do is I want to have a panel of Black men and a panel of Black women. And what I want to do is just talk about love. Whether we're going to talk about relationship type love. We're going to talk about self-love. But what I want to do is my idea of it is to get a perspective and not no bashing toward each other. I mean, an adult conversation, but just get an understanding of each other because again, we were taught certain kind of different, we were taught things. So again, a man is brought up to, men always tell young boys to get these girls and, just get as many girls as you want. You know what I mean? But then on the other side, that man is telling his daughters, you got to be a lady. You got to act like this. You got to save yourself for this.
Yeah.
So then when we get older, we come together and there's two different total dynamics of what things are. And in our minds, none of us are wrong because it's what we're taught. But it's not fair for, first of all, ourselves. Because if you got all these different women, you cannot love yourself as a man. There's no way.
But that's why I make it a point to, I guess, in my personal life as well, to be brutally honest with whoever I'm involved with, right?
Yeah,
because no.
Yeah.
No, if you're being toxic as hell, I'm gonna tell you you're being toxic as hell. Like what? Yeah. Who raised you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I can argue. I can argue. Like I'm a very shy person by nature, but I'm also a very blunt person. So like.
And I think that bluntness.
My mouth has gotten me into trouble.
Yeah, but you know what? And I think the bluntness, because I'm a very shy person. I'm quiet. but I'm a very blunt person because, again, our experiences from years before, we know what that pain felt like. And as we are now, don't come over here with that shit because I'm not.
Exactly.
I don't have that.
I heavy on the experiencing it before, right? Like heavy on knowing that pain, because I think now I've reached like the center of my healing, right? Like I'm deep in it. Like I know where I was in my late 20s.
Yeah.
I would never want to be there again, right?
Yep.
But it's like that shut down feeling that you get when you think back to it, and it's like it's almost like your body is rejecting the idea of ever going back to that feeling ever again, and you just know it can't be me next time, right? But at what point does it become a wall though? Because I think every person goes through this, right? The transition of your circle of friends, the transition of like that growth, when you realize who you really are, and it makes you realize who you've been surrounding yourself with, right? Like, am I around the right people? Are people benefiting me? And is my energy being reciprocated? And I think where I'm at right now is like, is it a wall, or am I protecting my energy? What's the difference right now? I don't know. Right, because of that fear of literally stepping out and meeting new people, because they potentially have the potential to hurt you too, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know if I ever want to take that chance again. Like, so it's a slippery slope, and the state that the world is in right now is just like, it can make you feel like lock yourself up and stay inside. And
because you look around and it's like everybody crazy, everybody losing their mind. Like, what is going on? I don't know
if you've been tuning in, but the retrograde is retrograding right now, even as we speak. So, yeah, it's they always said adulting wasn't fun, right? They wasn't lying.
I just said that yesterday.
Yeah. But it's a journey. I think what everyone should do is take it easy on themselves. Right, like you said earlier, like people, and myself included, I had to get out of that phase of being super hard on myself, super critical. I used to be my own worst enemy.
I'm still nothing now.
Yeah, and you just can't, because you're gonna get to a place where you're gonna start believing it's not a defense mechanism anymore. It'll turn into like an actual belief, right? Like, so that has changed drastically, like the way I talk to myself in the past couple of years. Like, I make sure I do my affirmations. I make sure that I start my day on a positive note. Like, no more negative talking.
I know.
No more putting myself down. You know what I mean? Because why?
I know. Yeah, it is. Yep. That it is. Where can they find you on social media?
All my accounts are private right now.
No, it's all good. No, it's not.
No, but it's noveerose.com _ and then my private account is Noveerose. Novee Rose.
Okay. Now look, I'm truly glad that I had this interview.
Me too.
I want to tell you that everything that you're doing, everything that that your mind is telling you to do, and how how God is ordering your steps, it's going to work. I mean, you can feel the peace in you and it's peace because everything that you've been through. Only truly everybody who knows is you and God is the deepest of the deep. So, and
I want people, like, whoever will watch this or come across this, like, if there are worse problems in the world, but let yourself feel what you're feeling, and move and allow yourself to feel what you're feeling and then process it. Like, give yourself time. Don't put yourself on anybody's timeline. Like, that's the biggest lesson I'm learning right now. Like, it is okay to truly do things properly and take my time. Like, I don't have to be on everyone else's timing. You know what I mean?
Man, that's true.
But really put yourself first. Because you all you got.
Yeah.
Seriously.
My grandpa used to always say, you can't, he said, no matter what you do, you can't get away from yourself. He said, if you walk across the street, you're going to be over there.
You are your first love. Act like it. Seriously.
Yep.
But yeah, that's been my biggest lesson. So I'm happy navigating through that and literally just being okay with finding balance within my work life, my personal life, just peace.
Yeah, and I do. And when we do have that panel, that's one of the topics that I do want to talk about is like just when people say mental health, you automatically think crazy. And that's that's not all the way true. What that is, it's like you said, how, the negative thoughts that you had toward yourself, all that kind of stuff. And over the years, as Black folk, if it sits in there long enough, we don't deal with it, it rots. And the only thing that's going to come out of it is negativity and venom and just anger and all of that kind of stuff. And we don't deal with all that stuff. And the people that we give it to is the people that we love most.
Listen, and I'm not going to sit here and act like negative. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm an angel because, because I was a champ at internalizing. But honey, when all that stuff came out, my whole world came crashing down, right? Because the people around me were like, what the hell is her problem?
And then you start thinking in your mind, I'm like, what is wrong?
But you've been sitting on these feelings for God knows how long, and you finally erupt, and everybody around you is like, well, what the hell is going on? So yes, like the best thing I did for myself was literally, I put myself in therapy. Like, I'm going to say like 3 years ago. And it's the best thing I've ever done. Even if you don't even have something serious going on in your life, like just adulting, period. Like, I feel like everyone in the state of this world is in, like, it can't hurt to put yourself in therapy. You need someone, an outsider who can really just be an ear to listen to and also just give great feedback.
And and sometimes when you start to talk, things come out that you ain't even realize was really a problem.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
Exactly. And it allows you to really do the work on yourself. Right. And sometimes you need to be separated to do that too.
Yep.
You don't need to always have people around you.
I know. Yep. Miss Novia, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. And I'm gonna
thank you.
Yeah, and I'm gonna keep in touch with you too, because I am working on it. So, and yeah, I'm gonna keep in touch with you because there's going to be other things that maybe we can, jump on the podcast together and talk about too.
Sure. I'm always here. Let me know.
All right. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
You're on YouTube, baby.